And so Rising Serpent is here, and thank you so much for joining us. Question I think about a lot, because I do think about the cartelization of what we're experiencing now, right, on Earth, and what we're experiencing kind of the defragmentation of the world, and the cartelization. Clearly, it's become apparent every time we leave our house. We see that things have changed. So Rising Serpent, thank you so much for joining us. Asked, do you worry about the cartelization of space?
And I think the answer is absolutely yes. And President Eisenhower, in his farewell address in 1961, put the scientific technological elite on the same level of danger to the future as the military industrial complex. And so the answer is yes. But again, this is another reason for the Space Force, is so that the power of government, and the biggest problem we have, and I'm going to say it quickly, is that Congress has not evolved quickly to bring new blood into it who are interested in new laws for this new age. There's a group of us that are supporting an Internet Bill of Rights for privacy and all, but the people that control Congress right now, they're still old baby boomers. As much gray hair as I have, I think we need new blood in our legislative, in the presidency. We need new blood.
But in terms of being responsive to that, in terms of being responsive to that, certainly I see that, we're having kind of failures in legislation and kind of forward thinking in it, but that still leaves the question unanswered. Do you worry about the cartelization?
Yes. The answer absolutely is yes. And we have to be ever vigilant to make sure it doesn't happen.
And how will we know when it's happening? Or will we know only when it's too late?
Well, when the first war starts between Bezosia and Elonia.
But then it's too late for them. But by then, all the regulatory oversight has failed. So,
well, yeah, I mean, sometimes failure happens, and we need to get in front of it now. And this is why we need to quit pissing in each other's shoes and start looking toward the future.
And I'll tell you who just came in, who entered the backstage. And I don't know if you can see that. And I don't want to surprise them and let them know they'd be live if they joined us. But do you see that Brigadier General Steve, that Brigadier General Bucky has joined us?
Oh, I can't see the backstage, so I don't know.
He has. So I'm going to try and message him.
I would advocate not, because in his role, I gave a wrong link to a lot of people, and he is a general officer in the United States military who is subject to the civilian leadership, and it's probably inappropriate for him to make any comment.
Yeah, I was going to try and message him to let him know that we can't let him in and I didn't want to be offensive. And if you would you like to just give a quick explainer of his role currently? And the Defense Innovation Unit, which General Butow is the head of the space portfolio in the Defense Innovation Unit, was actually created by Ash Carter under the Obama administration, because the administration, and this has been going on for a while, realized that the traditional military contractors were falling behind, that their products were substandard, and they were taking too long and way too much over budget. And so the Defense Innovation Unit was created as a bridge to Silicon Valley to not try to impose the governmental model on commercial space, but to allow the incredible flowering that has been commercial space and commercial Silicon Valley and all of our technological civilization to revitalize our defense industrial base, as well as to help promote commerce of the nation. It's a noble thing that was started in the Obama administration, and I think it will be supported going forward. Yeah, and again, even though I can't let him pass the velvet rope, right? I'm just so honored that he got perhaps the wrong invitation, but that he showed up at the party. So I think that's really awesome. And I was going to message him to join the front row, but I don't think I'll have that chance. So really interesting. And JXS, I have a little bit of a list, says, nice to see Mr. Wingo live. I would agree with that. I think we all would agree with that. Thoughts on the increasing noise about nuclear in space?
I think it's fabulous. And here's the thing. Civilization runs on energy. And solar power is wonderful, but it cannot drive. It's just simply not possible for it to drive terawatts, gigawatts, and terawatts of power in space. Is just too diffuse of an energy source. And nuclear power is going to be required for anything out past Mars. And I think it's wonderful, and I fully support it. And as a historical note, if things had gone the way that the FY 1966 NASA budget had been passed, Apollo 20 would have been a nuclear-powered third stage.
And I see that, and I'm looking for it now, that Mark Schneider again contributed a comment about nuclear energy, because he's been so active in it. So I'm just going to have to scroll around and look for his comment again. So Jedi Mac 3 says artificial intelligence software generators.
I want Jarvis.
Yeah.
I absolutely want Tony Stark's Jarvis. It is my goal in life before I die that I will have Jarvis. And these are just like a knife, a fork, or a spoon is a tool. AI is a tool to help us manage this amazing deluge of data that our civilization has, and to help our minds make sense of it. So, and AI software generators is a specific thing, and it will be interesting to see what the products are. But if it is tailored right, and if it is trained right, we've been doing a lot of machine learning and a lot of AI for the moon, for looking for resources and looking for water. That's another thing we've been doing. I think there's tremendous possibilities.
And we're going to skip on, and we're going to skip to a question that I'm interested in as well. And I'm not going to try and project anything beyond. I think a lot of people here know I'm very bullish both on Space Force and on the defense industry. I've expressed that for a long time because of their handling. They're engaged in very highly complex, very high-hanging fruit, and very expensive problems to solve. So I'm kind of a part of it, right? So Interior Foliage, thank you so much for joining us. How does Boeing fit into the future of space logistics?
Boeing has tremendous possibilities. Boeing's problem, and I was there the day that Boeing bought McDonnell Douglas. I was in a McDonnell Douglas.
I was one of the big short squeezers of McDonnell Douglas. I remember it really well. I remember when their cargo jet, I remember the whole thing.
Yeah, so I was at McDonnell Douglas that day looking at the Delta II production line, and I was walking around saying, "You have been assimilated." But the fact is that McDonnell Douglas used Boeing's money to buy Boeing. So there was a cultural defect that was given to Boeing in that merger that took Boeing away from its engineering focus to a corporate focus, and that destroyed the company. And the way that Boeing is going to fit in the future of space logistics, they need to go back to their roots as an engineering-driven culture, because all of the failures of Boeing in the past 20 years has become by leaving those roots. And so that's how Boeing fits into it. They recoup their engineering excellence, and then I think Boeing can do amazing things. This spacecraft right here behind me, that was built by Boeing, and all 5 of them, built in 1966, were fully successful in mapping the moon. And so
we're gonna go to another question, which is actually really interesting, and it's even there's an irony to it. Is this is also a subject that Tracy follows, who joined us earlier. And asked and posed a question, kind of discusses. This is kind of one of the things that she kind of theorizes a lot about, as well as I see although I can't let them in, but one of the people knocking on the VIP suite backstage here is Namrata Goswami, and she's a futurist as well. She's a very well-known kind of futurist into space and its implications into national sovereignty. So with that in advance, so Rising Serpent, again, thank you so much for joining us. Ask, does space have its own economy, or does it remain connected at the hip to Earth's economy?
All of the above. And you should let Naomi in. She is a remarkable woman, and you need to have her on a Periscope.
Would it be cruel if I just surprised her?
Yeah, go ahead. Naomi, come on in.
I don't know.
Okay, all right. We'll save that. There she is.
Nope. You see?
Yeah.
Thankfully she wasn't there. It worked out kind of good.
Well, Dr. Goswami, Naomi, is a remarkable, amazing person, and I support everything she does. And space will have its own economy, and it does remain connected at the hip. So it's both, because it's just like on the Earth. The United States economy is not decoupled from the rest of the world. Remember the countries that tried to decouple from the rest of the world, like Albania or China before the great opening in 1972? They were nothing. It's only when we're here together as part of a larger ecosystem that we can all be successful. And each of us, I have products from all over the world. And it's going to be the same thing in space. We're going to have products here. They're going to sell, the moon's going to sell products. It's my personal goal to build interplanetary spaceships in lunar orbit that will traverse the inner solar system. That's one of my goals for my company. So that's where we're going. That's our 15-year plan. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, and what type of kind of autonomous economy would something on the moon or or outside of Earth have?
Yeah, autonomous economies, at least in the next 30 to 50 years, are not really possible. I just, unless something radically changes, there's just certain things that will always be cheaper to get from the Earth. And after the industrial infrastructure is set up, there will always be things that are cheaper to get from space. Raw materials, valuable hardware. There's $100 billion a year on the Earth technological foundation based on doing things in a vacuum. Over 100 billion a year on the Earth. Most of our technologies that we use every day are dependent on vacuum. Well, a lot of those can be done much after the infrastructure is set up, much cheaper and quicker in space. So you're going to see the same kind of shift that we saw in manufacturing from the United States to China. You're going to start to see manufacturing in some industries move to space simply because it's where it gets done most efficiently. But it will still be hooked to the Earth because that's where your 9 billion customers are going to be. Wow,
remarkable. And I'm kind of eager now to one day have the privilege of including Namrata in that. So Ruben, thank you so much for joining us. Interesting. It says initiatives to open source low Earth space navigation software, and by open sourcing, allowing everybody to kind of contribute to its creation, and a license kind of being commonly shared. And then they include within that, and this might be a little bit outside of the conversation, but that the Monty software licenses cost $5,000 a year.
Well, just like we have this wonderful explosion, like Linux, for example, of open source software. It's just waiting on a few really smart people to start creating it. I mean, and I've got the basic books. Go get a book on the mathematical basis of celestial navigation. Okay, start with the math. Do your coding. There's tons and tons of stuff out there. Kerbal Space Program, Scott Manley's Kerbal Space Program. Take that and put it on steroids. There's amazing opportunities to do stuff like that. It's just like what we're doing. We're jumping into the RISC-V ecosystem, because ARM is starting to charge too much money. And as soon as NVIDIA buys ARM's going to get even more expensive. So people are already jumping to open source RISC-V. And I think we're going to do the same in software. It's just, you're 10 years old, you want to learn something, learn about celestial navigation, math, write some software, and I think you've got a great future.
And we're going to ask this question because it was included, and I think people are very intrigued. And I really appreciate everybody's time because I try and make this kind of a lunch thing. And now we're like ordering desserts, right? Now we're really kind of treating ourselves. So it's kind of a speed round, right?
Let's do it.
Not too speed round, I'll tell you, but a speed round. So Jam 1776, thank you so much for joining us. Says how to push Congress to support an Internet Bill of Rights.
I will have a draft of Internet Bill of Rights. Let's do an open source, crowdsourced Internet Bill of Rights. I promise to put the first draft out in a couple of weeks. Let's a few 10,000 of us work on it, and then we'll present it to all of our Congress people and say, sign the damn thing. That's really, and I've done this in the past. I was one of the 9 founders of a group called ProSpace, and we started citizen lobbying for space in the early 1990s, and we helped get a lot of stuff done. So remember, this government, you own it. Those people up there are your employees. Just remember that. They don't remember that.
So we're gonna skip around. So DeWhooper Nation, thank you so much for joining us. And I think you changed your image that you use. So cool. Says I'm a mechanical engineer with over a decade of offshore experience. Where should they send their resume to for space? So I think they also mean not maybe necessarily just companies, but kind of directionally. And if you have precision, that would be awesome.
Well, if you're an ME and you're doing a lot of software, SolidWorks, structural analysis, stuff like that, come give us a holler. There's tons of companies that will hire you because, like what you say, Adam, the talent pool is so restricted that it's time to bring more people in. I think you'll have a great opportunity there. And
I wish, diversity and kind of bringing more people in to participate has become, clearly, and it should be such an important thing. I wish we could educate our children a little bit more, not necessarily just in STEM, but I feel that when I look at what our colleges are graduating and the majors that they have, that even if they don't have the STEM background, they might not have kind of that robust, education required just to communicate even with people.
Our educational system has been destroyed. I graduated in 1997, and it's terrible what has happened. We had the world's best educational system. We destroyed it.
Yeah.
And we need to rebuild it.
If you take a look, and then we're going to get to our last question, I think, but if you take a look, and I do take a look at the college reports that are coming out, both from the White House, which is an annual report, which is the more rosy of them, right? And that's consistent with Bush, Clinton, Obama, Trump, I'm sure Biden as well. They're rosy, but if you parse through it a little bit, they also they diplomatically express that there's a lot of concern there. And then if you read some of the other reports, they're much more explicit that we're just not graduating the quality of students. And a lot of the talent that we have here is coming from overseas students, and a lot of the academic papers, which is one way of measuring our success in the educational system, is by measuring the number of academic papers and within particular industries, is those are a lot of overseas students who have come here, and most of them stay here, right? Yeah. But now that's kind of a warfare in itself, because we can't, there's migration has a dividend, right? And some of them, the fear is that they would return to, I'm part of Make in India, so I want them to return a little bit to India, return to just so many countries that have had their overseas students here. I do think about that.
Well, I do too, and I've been a part of this my whole life, and I've seen the dumbing down of education. The educational industrial complex in this country needs to be destroyed. It has gone too far. We've got to fix it. We got to quit dumbing down standards.
In your own company, and the companies of your friends, and I'm sure obviously you have the experience, but you've also discussed with. Do you find there's a scarcity of talent that's out there? Is there a big enough reservoir for you to draw from?
Well, the answer is yes. There's a lot of good people, and good people want to work on really exciting things like what we're doing. And so we don't really have that much of a problem, but we're already bringing in people from other industries. We're bringing people directly out of school. But my philosophy is I have a lot of old timers who've been doing this for 35, 40 years who I can count on. And then we're using them to train the young people. And that's how I learned it when I first came into the industry. And we're instituting that model in my company as we grow, and we're going to do this, but we have to fix this educational system. So I don't understand why we've destroyed it, but it's destroyed.
I'm going to go back to Rising Serpent's question because about the cartelization of space, right? Is there a fear? I wish I could find their comment again, but I'm not going to scroll for it. Is there a fear that Amazon and SpaceX, and I suppose we can call them the cartels, but they are what they are, right? Is that they'll create their own university system that is much less burdensome and much more targeted for what the skill sets that are required.
Well, Elon's already doing that with his kids, and
who is that?
Elon.
Yeah, but what if they institutionalize that? Doesn't that build
to do something?
I'm sorry, isn't that a cartelization of space? If they're kind of incubating tomorrow's employees, if they're incubating them through their education today, and
the only reason that happens is because the government and the government educational system are failing the people.